and welcome to Talking Tent, a show about movies, TV, and all the content we can possibly consume.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Irma.
Today, we are talking Silo, finally. We finished it. Little conversation on Hard Knocks and my beloved New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers is coming to save the whole world, apparently. Quickly touching on Reservation Dogs again, because it's exciting. And then on the movie side, we watched Miguel Wants to Fight on Hulu, which was very good. Well, we won't spoil it because we want people to watch it. And DC's Blue Beetle, which I really loved. Same thing. We'll start by not spoiling it, and then within the conversation, we start to spoil it.
I also want to shout out that Ellie Kemper movie we watched.
Oh, Happiness for Beginners.
Yeah. Sure.
But first, we start like we always do with some marital bliss. What'd we do this week?
Nothing.
Sometimes in life, some brick chicken you get at a restaurant while out to dinner with your sister and brother-in-law and lovely wife is the best part of your week. I got some delicious chicken at Kafar in Williamsburg.
Yeah, our new favorite restaurant. We've been there like 3 times now.
Yeah, we've been and tried a bunch of stuff, and now I know that the brick chicken is the best, and I would normally never order brick chicken, but it felt right, and it turns out it was juicy and delicious. Shockingly good.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed with the schnitzel.
Yeah, the schnitzel was not so schnitzely. It was more like a crazy...
I mean, it was good, but it was just not a schnitzel.
Yeah. Anyway.
And then we went to Westlight, and we're the oldest people there. That felt great.
Right. Yes, the top of the William Vale Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Lots of rowdy teens.
Yeah,
I call everybody that's younger than me rowdy teens, and even though I know none of them are teenagers. But close enough.
They felt like it.
Sexy co-eds.
All right, Zach.
That's just another word.
Are you expanding your vocabulary? This is you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's it. Not the most eventful weekend, but we're living our life. What do we got for industry talk? Nothing. Well, Ahsoka starts tonight.
That's the Emmy voting is currently happening.
Oh, the Emmy voting is happening.
Which is weird, but okay.
Right. So the show got delayed, but the voting is the same time as it normally would be, which makes sense because they want to keep the shows in the same window.
That's true.
So then like next year's show will feel very rushed after one show in January. Then another one will be in September. But that's fine. I don't know. I did listen to a thing, a guy like a pundit that apparently is pretty good at predicting things, and he was not as sold on the Bear sweeping everything as I was. So it sounds like I'm going to be mad during the Emmys.
Well, who are you listening to? You have to shout him out.
He was on the IndieWire podcast.
Okay.
And now I'm forgetting who he said, other than Jeremy Allen White. He had different answers for even Eben. It's like, Eben's probably not going to win. I was like, are you friggin' kidding me,
Is that like what he thinks or that what he wants?
No, it's what he thinks, but he's often right. And he was like giving all these, more industry reasons rather than like he was really freaking good.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
We'll see. What do you know?
What do I know? What does he know? What does anybody know? But let's start by talking about Silo. The Apple TV Plus sci-fi post-apocalyptic kind of, well, definitely trapped in a silo based on the book by Hugh Howey called Wool.
Yeah.
Which I read, I think it was like 20 years ago.
Well, it feels like you definitely read it a long time ago since you don't remember it
I don't really remember anything. I do know that it was like the first big Amazon self-published viral hit.
Well, didn't he write like a novella? Like he wrote like a short story essentially. And then people were like, oh my God, you have to make this into a book. So then he made it into a full-length book. And then from there, he made it into a series. Yeah.
So he was like the first self-published success story from Amazon.
One of the first, for sure. 50 Shades of Grey. Pretty sure that was.
Hugh Howey walked so that friggin' 50 Shades of Grey could run, I guess. So Irma, what'd you think about Silo?
Well, I honestly thought it was really good. I enjoy these like sci-fi type of shows. I've always been like really into sci-fi and like the mystery box of it all. I do think that 10 episodes was way too long for this. I feel like it could have been done in 6 episodes. I also read that this wasn't even the first full book, like that they actually stopped the show short, which is kind of surprising to me because I really felt like some of these episodes lagged. So why not just do the whole first book in this? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But in general, I did really like it. Zach, what did you think about Silo?
This is another one where the more I think about it, the less I like it.
Okay.
There's no denying that even though I barely apparently remember the book, I remembered a few key things. And so I knew where the whole show was going, even though a few of the details of the show were I was wrong about what I remembered. And we can get into that because it's kind of funny later. But yeah, it was way too long. They could have told the whole book, which they didn't. And
do you happen to remember like where in the book they stopped, or no? You don't know
exactly like percentage wise.
Yeah, like how much more story?
I think it's not that much more. It's just like gets to the next action, kind of the next big thing. And then I'm not sure again because I read the book. I'm not sure if it just like felt really predictable. But what did you think? Like, actually, so before we get to the end, because really the show is just about the end, but building to the end. So we had the first 2 episodes, which were cool and like a build up and like, oh, we're building intrigue with these characters. And then those characters go outside and they basically build the whole narrative of the show. And then for the next 8 episodes, we're just following Rebecca Ferguson around, trying to unravel this mystery. That's like not that much of a mystery. Like the mystery is like, we know somebody's lying. We know the powers that be are lying. So what was the mystery? Yeah,
it was weird. Like her whole focus was to find out who killed her boyfriend, essentially George. And they were just like, I want to say episodes like 5 through 8. It just like, they all kind of blend together because I don't even remember like what the difference between them was. Like it was all just like very repetitive, like very back and forth. I just don't think that they were necessarily necessary. Like Common's whole storyline just felt so like shoved in.
This solidified that I will not watch anything that Common is in.
Yeah. Imagine if that was Idris.
Not even Idris. Literally saying, anybody.
Like, yeah.
He was so bad. Every scene he was in, I was just like, oh, I'm just out. I'm out.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but he was so bad.
He was the only non-British person in this show.
No, Tim Robbins isn't British either. The tall guy, the mayor.
Right.
Yeah, everybody was British and you could tell they all had bad English accents. They had bad American accents.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. So again, it was a really long time ago. And I remember really liking the book. And I just remember like being more intrigued with the characters and there being something more mysterious and more going on and like more well written. He fleshed out the silo a lot more. And normally you'd be like, all right, a book adaptation simply cannot get to all of the detail that books normally do because they have to put it in this smaller package. But a 10-hour TV show can cover a 300-page book, and they still didn't. Like they changed weird things about the camera and the screens. They didn't really explore the silo at all. Like you said, it was kind of like episodes 5 through 8. So 4 episodes were like basically the same thing.
Yeah, they really all just like blended together. And I don't think we really got anything out of them. Like I remember like thinking like maybe like the first 4 or 5 episodes like were exciting, you know, and I felt like, oh, we were getting somewhere. But then it kind of just like stood still for a little while. It just like we kind of forgot about George, like other people died. And it just like, I don't know. It was all about finding this one device. And it just.
And then, so what the mystery kind of, like, we knew somebody was lying, and it was like, ooh, the powers that be are bad. And I guess the mystery was like, who is the person in control? But they gave us like 3 shitty options. It was either the judge, who we barely understood who she was and how she had power.
Yeah.
Common, who simply sucks. Or Tim Robbins, who like, oh, he was nice to Rebecca Ferguson for a while and is shockingly tall for an actor. And like, so I just didn't care. It felt like, I know someone's doing something bad. I basically know what bad thing they're doing. Like, they're holding people in a cement silo. Mystery solved.
Yeah. I did find, like, I think it was like the last episode, or maybe it was the second to last episode, when they like finally find this drive and see what's on it. And then like you think, oh my God, this is the big twist.
Yeah, there's nothing.
What do you mean? Oh.
Like, what did the drive tell her?
Well, that it was beautiful outside.
So Rebecca Ferguson goes on this big fact-finding mission with all these loose ends and comes across the hard drive, or she always had it, right? Because she saw it early on.
No, because it was with the baby lady and her, like the one that they were keeping captive. Like it was in her thing, the hard drive.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember?
No.
No, wow. Why are we talking about this if you don't even remember the show?
It's just like little details. I don't remember where the hard drive was when they had the hard drive in episode 2 and then finally cracked it in episode 9. But yeah, so George shows her the video from outside.
Yes, which we presumably believe that the old police sheriff saw, David Oyelowo, and what's her face, his wife, Rashida Jones saw, which both motivated them to go outside and clean, as they say in the show.
Yeah.
Which is essentially to kill yourself.
They also, at one point, the power goes out when they're doing the whole generator rebuilding scene.
Mm-hmm.
And the screen flashes to that
Which is
shot.
kind of strange now that you think about it.
It like glitched, I guess.
But like, why would it go to that if that's not how it really is outside?
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
So then it's like a double twist. So she goes outside, and then within the last few minutes of, I'm not even positive like what her goal, oh no.
They force her to go outside.
They force her to go outside because she's getting too close to the truth. And Tim Robbins is like, I heard her say I want to go outside. So she's going outside. And in the last minute, the old lady.
And she's also the lady from Succession playing the mom, Carolyn, same actress. I don't remember her real name.
Way goofier in this one.
I liked her.
No, she was good, but like from like horrible mom put everyone down to like really supportive mother figure, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Totally different. She says something with the tape. She's like, oh, all of this started when I asked for the tape, blah, 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 blah. They zoom in on putting the tape in like tight around the suit. And then
to make sure like air doesn't come out or something.
Well, right. How you would like reinforce a spacesuit. People use tape. It's a thing. I don't know. Or
is that true?
Like a disinfectant. Like when you tape up when you go into a toxic
like you
zone.
Tape the gloves to like the body of the suit.
Like not everything
like
is
it doesn't
airtight.
click in. I always thought they clicked in.
I mean, I don't know. It's the end of the world. They don't have a click in.
Okay, I don't know.
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
And Rebecca Ferguson is not dying, and she sees the
blue skies, the green grass, the birds.
And she suddenly realizes like, oh, this is the lie. And she touches the rock where the bodies are, like understanding that the bodies are there and what they were showing on the screen was real. And the nice stuff is fake. And I don't know why.
Well,
It's to motivate people to clean the screen.
Yeah.
But in the television show, the screen was completely fine the whole time.
Yeah.
So that really changed it.
That's true. If the screen was dirtier, maybe like then it would motivate them to actually clean.
And she isn't dying because the tape that they use on everyone else is bad tape, and they know they're gonna die. So when the lady, the older lady, changes out the tape to the good tape, Rebecca Ferguson doesn't die, summits the hill. Everyone's like, what? It zooms out, and shocker, we all knew it. There's other silos.
Yeah.
Just like basically every other of these stories has happened.
The air is toxic outside.
The air apparently is toxic, or at least I guess so. Because if it was the tape being bad that killed them, it is. So fun little tidbit. I read the book, which I've said, and concocted a completely different story in my head. And for years, and especially watching this entire show, thought the outside air was totally fine, and the powers that be were actually poisoning the people that go outside through the suits to make people think they couldn't go outside to leave the silo because they didn't want to lose power. And so literally until the last second, and then after it, I was like, that is not what happened. And then I looked it up, and I just made that up. And my answer is better.
I agree. I think your answer is better. But also, like, you were very angry and confused about why this tape mattered so much.
Yeah, because I still thought it was me. And then you're like, no, she figured out that she had to just get good tape. And that solved everything. And then I was like, oh, this is stupid.
Yeah, the tape having such a big impact was so dumb in this story.
So then, like, so my made up explanation makes it like clear why they send people out, why they kill them, to like ensure that those that are in power
what if,
stay
like,
in power.
the people don't die? Does that mean the air is good? You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't die.
True.
So to them, it could mean, oh, the air is good finally.
Right. So like, why are they lying when they're not lying? Like, you can't go outside.
Yeah.
So like the only thing that they're lying about is that when the people do go outside, they make it look like it's nice out so that they clean the screen.
Yeah.
And that's it.
It's so
like nobody's really lying.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's not really a big conspiracy.
Yeah, they're just kind of shitty.
Yeah. Which is like kind of unnormal. Like, they're just like an authoritarian government, and that's it. I mean, that's bad, but it's also like, okay, I don't know.
Right. So like, if the people were to rise up, which presumably they will.
Yes.
Like, they're just saying, like, they're not rising up for any reason. They're not being lied to.
I know,
Other than that there's other silos.
Exactly.
Like, that's not even that important.
But I don't even think the big guy knows that.
Yeah, I'm not even sure Tim Robbins or Common know that.
Yeah.
They just know that there's a tunnel, and like maybe they think there is, but it doesn't seem like there's communication.
Like he was finding that out for the first time when she said, oh, there's a tunnel.
Also, in me, after I watched it, I was like, this is not how the book ends. My way is how the book ends. Then I had to look it up. So I started looking at how the book ends. And then I saw some other articles about the differences in the book.
Mm-hmm.
So other than just like, a book having way more time to just flesh out the inner workings of the silo, there's also the outside looks really bad. It's not just like a desert with one dead tree and like you can see the stars every single night. It's like a hellscape of like electric storms, like how the Matrix looks, like how the outside of the Matrix looks. Like, you would never want to go out there. It looks horrible.
Yeah.
And because of all the weather, the screen and the camera actually gets dirty. And like, as the screen gets harder and harder to see through, it's like the tension builds because somebody has to go clean it. And it's not just every 3 years when somebody acts naughty, they send someone out to clean if they want. It's like they send someone out every few months to clean, and they are going to die. So that adds the tension to everything that people do. So as the screen gets dirtier, people know one of us is about to go die.
Yeah, I think that would have been a good added tension in the show.
I don't know why they took that out.
Yeah.
And the guy
because that would have made them even feel more evil too, you know?
Right. Like they're sending someone out to die.
Yeah.
Just to clean a screen because like seeing the outside is nice. Or I don't know.
Yeah.
Or like seeing the outside makes you realize that you have to stay inside.
Well, and I guess if it's like that, then maybe it's like the last little hope that they try and give these people, like, oh, look how beautiful it is out here right before they
so
die.
They'll clean.
Yeah.
So like, so with all of that, how if the screen was correct to the book, it makes more sense why somebody would want to see the fake beautifulness to actually clean. Because like, why else would they? Which they mention that like, I want everyone to see this.
Yeah.
But they can see it. Like the screen is totally fine in the show.
Yeah.
So they can see it. And the guy that sees all the stars and is tracking the stars, I also remember him being way bigger. And I know they like do the kiss, but I like remember really rooting for their relationship. Like I remember that relationship being more important than the George relationship.
Oh, interesting.
But maybe I'm wrong again. Maybe I made that up.
A quick question about him. So because the judge or whatever, found out that this guy like was maybe going to help her, he sent him off to the mines.
Yeah, what mines?
Exactly. So like
never mentioned mines.
But like if there's mines, doesn't that mean they're going to find other silos?
Yeah, but presumably maybe the mines just go straight down. They're doing like iron ore or something.
Yeah, but then there's water down there. Like they already have gone down pretty far. So that's what like I was confused about these like mines, because then like they're going to run into other silos.
Yeah. So that was one thing that really annoys me about certain stories. Like I talked about it in my review of Bird Box, where like in the last 10% of a story, you can't just add a new element that you never mentioned before. You never mention mines as a punishment. The punishment is going outside. Yeah. And now it's like, and there's a jail. So like now there's another punishment called the mines. What are they? Yeah. And like, what is so silly?
Yeah. Anyway.
Listen to us. The show is not that good.
No, I enjoyed it, but it is like long. I mean, I think Rebecca Ferguson is really good. I mean, the first 2 episodes, honestly, are great. I truly think that they like David Oyelowo.
Add intrigue, and then that intrigue doesn't get there.
That's the novella. Like that was his original story, and then they like wanted him to build off that. But that original, like the first 2 episodes, are so good, and that's what gave me hope for the rest of the show. Because I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. This is such a beautiful story. It's heartbreaking. So I definitely want them to get back to that. And then I kind of wish. I mean, not that I'm always like rooting for like a woman to find love, but like I do think that maybe that would have grounded Rebecca Ferguson's story slightly. I mean, I guess she had that with the woman in the basement, but I feel like she was hardly even in it after a while because they were so far apart. I don't know. I just think like Rebecca Ferguson needed some other connection in the story to make us feel more, I don't know.
No, you're right. She was very icy the whole time.
She was, just
so
very...
it was like it was a difficult protagonist because it was like, yeah, we like her because we're supposed to like her, but do I actually like her? She seems like very generic.
I did like her. I really did. But I don't know. I think I liked the people in the generator area way more than I like the people up top, which I think
that was the point.
That's the point, obviously. But but then I just wish she could have interacted with them more. I don't know. Anyway. We're going too long. It
sounds like they changed a few things from the book that I think would have rounded out the story much more, and they had plenty of time to do it, so I don't really understand why they did it. And I think it just, again, goes back to that the Apple shows dumb everything down so far. We haven't watched Foundation, which I hear is good, but I don't know if I want to. Other than Shrinking, I feel like the Apple shows have been fine. And even that's dumbed down, but like it's supposed to be. It's nice. It's fun. But I don't know. It was good, but I think it's getting a like hype that I don't know about.
Do you think you'll read the second book?
No.
How many books are there?
I don't know.
You should read them. Actually, no, because you've been on this one book for months. When is your next book club, by the way?
I don't like...
Did that end?
It ended.
Oh.
I don't like reading things and then watching them as seen here. I hate knowing what happens. Then what's the point? Of being like, okay, here's the person that played the person I was imagining.
I don't know. Ugh, you're so difficult.
Why? I just don't like, I don't enjoy the things when I read them first. So I'm not going to. I'd rather just enjoy the show or the movie. Next, quick hitters. Hard Knocks is the best show on television. I've always loved Hard Knocks. I think it was 2010 with Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez. They did, God, that was 13 years ago. They did the Jets. And I've watched every season before and after. Always love it. But now we're back on the Jets. And the intrigue is sky high because of Aaron Rodgers. It's an absolute mess. I'm so excited for this season. They're going to win the Super Bowl, and there's really no place to go but down, and that is terrifying, and I'm totally used to it as a Jets, Mets, Knicks fan. They're definitely going to fall apart. Maybe they'll win 9 games, but man, it would be awesome. It'd be awesome if they could make a good run.
I know. Aaron Rodgers is like the patron saint. At least that's how they're like making him out to be.
They sure are giving him either everything we heard. I just feel like what really happened was like the vaccine stuff, I think, got blown out of proportion. And then everybody was like, he's weird, which he is weird.
Yeah,
like,
he seems like a weird dude.
He's been into ayahuasca and like expanding your mind and like doing darkness retreats, which is weird for a football player. It's not that weird for like lots of other people. Like lots of people do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just that like he's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And he's into this like more yogi stuff. So people just didn't know what to do with that.
That's true.
And he wasn't very good last year, but he had a broken thumb. And apparently he's like, can be ornery and not great with his teammates. And maybe he was just kind of sick of the people in Green Bay. And now the change of scenery, it will be good because he's coming across great.
Yeah, he really is. He's lovely.
And all of his team, all of the teammates are saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't know what they're editing out, but like he talks to everybody. He's like when LeBron, when you watch when you follow him around, he knows all the refs because he's been around for 20 years. He says hi to all the players. He gives advice to the young players. He's doing a great job with Zach Wilson, and Zach Wilson is doing a great job. I don't know what happened to Zach Wilson. Apparently, he used to be kind of a douche. And maybe the last 2 years have really humbled him because he seems like maybe it's just for the cameras.
Where have you heard that he was a douche? Maybe it's the same thing with Aaron Rodgers. Like who's saying this?
Well, he's like, yeah, maybe it's a little bit prejudged, but like, I don't know. So the big story, other than him being the worst quarterback I've ever watched play, he slept with his friend's mom in college.
Nice.
And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. He just seems doofy. But yeah, maybe I never really have seen much of him outside of the playing field. So maybe I'm just wrong and mean.
Can I ask a question? Is Sanchez still in the league?
No, he's a commentator now. He's actually very good at it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well.
Yeah, it's a love fest for AR.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really fun to watch.
I imagine the episode tonight will be a love fest for Dalvin Cook, who they just signed. And it'll be like, wow, this running back is so good.
Well, it seems like he has brought a lot of people with him.
Yeah, people.
So maybe that'll be really good for the Jets. And they all seem to be getting along. I mean, obviously, this is a TV show.
Yeah.
And they've obviously like taken it away from focusing on the rookies and who is going to be cut or make the team, which I have always liked. But at the same time, it was always like kind of heartbreaking to find out the players that you have grown attached to don't make it, and you really do want the best for them. But yeah, it's interesting, I guess, focusing on like the main players.
Yeah, so I also like that Robert Saleh definitely knows and definitely lets everybody on the team know the stigma of the Jets. Because I think part of being on the Jets is your quest to turn them around. And if you're not trying to do that, you're doing it wrong. Like the ultimate motivator is like, that's not be a laughingstock for the past 30, 40 years since Joe Namath. And he's said that a few different times.
Who is this?
The coach.
Oh, the bald guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I like that. He's like, now we have Aaron Rodgers. This offense cannot suck anymore. Stop sucking.
Yeah,
so
well, he
see.
did say that last time. He was like, the the offensive line.
Yeah. I do wonder, because the Jets specifically said that they're not going to show the cuts like they always have. I do wonder if eventually, so there's 2 more episodes tonight. Yeah, there's got to be two more after tonight's. Like they have to they showed the one rookie who was the first round draft pick, who's definitely making the team. They have to do like a little bit of the younger players. And then
maybe they'll do it after they make the team.
True. Right. And not show the ones that don't.
Yeah.
And just show the ones that do.
But like I always thought about it, like for the ones that don't make the team, like this show is happening almost in real time.
Yeah, it's
like,
taped
isn't
for
it
them.
like good for the players that don't make the team to like show to other teams, like, hey, look at this guy. He could be a good asset. So like at the same time, like they usually do get signed by other teams.
Yeah, I think it helps. I think last year maybe there was that one guy that was playing really well and just they couldn't fit him on the team and he got picked up, and they always show like who gets picked up after.
Yeah.
But also they're filming all the practices anyway, and everybody gets tape of everybody if they want it.
Oh.
So like I guess it puts them maybe higher in the list, because like the buzz is around them.
Mm-hmm.
But like really, if you're looking for a linebacker that got cut from training camp, there's tape of all of them and they can find it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Let's go Jets though. Jets, Jets, Super Bowl. We can't wait for the season to start 2 Thursdays from now.
Oh,
I think.
shit.
This Thursday.
Does that mean summer's over?
Yeah, summer's over. Summer's over. September is better. September and October are the best anyway.
Well, September is still considered summer.
Sure. And I briefly wanted to mention Reservation Dogs, which we have been talking about throughout the year. In the Excitometer episode, I think we talked about the first 2 episodes 2 episodes ago on this podcast. And I just wanted to bring it back up because we watched episode 3 and 4. And what I loved about this show and what I think is so talented from everybody involved. So episode 3 goes back to this like mystical Iliad-esque adventure of Bear getting home. So they did episode 2 was him meeting that guy in the cabin.
Yes.
And he was like kind of a future him, kind of. And then this woman is a mystical being getting revenge upon those that wronged her in the Native American space and people. And, you know, it really got pretty deep about like internment camps and these like orphanages that they rounded up all of the
scary. It was kind of like a little bit of a horror episode.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And then she was like murdering people.
Yeah.
And she had hoofs. So it was like this deer lady, they called her. And while I was watching it and being absolutely mystified by it, like, you know, it was very Atlanta-esque in some of the things that they did. I was like, wow, is this whole season going to be this like Iliad, Dante's Inferno, Gulliver's Travels-esque adventure for Bear to get back home? And then Bear was like, the other characters were basically going to be pushed aside to center on him.
Which they couldn't have done.
Right. And I was okay with that. And I thought it'd be really cool. Or even if they went back and forth and like every other episode, they were just not together.
Yeah, that's true.
And I was intrigued by that. And this episode was really good. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. And then episode 4 comes and he gets home. And I go, oh, I didn't think he was going to get home that fast.
Yeah.
And then all 4 Res dogs are together again. The neighborhood is together. And then it completely shifts back to just like this hilarious ensemble cast making jokes, goofing off,
yeah, they're
having
just
a good
delightful.
time. And it reminds you that like, oh, right, this is why we want to see them all together, because it was so good.
Yeah.
And it was just so cool that one show can do 2 completely dichotomous things and have both of them be like, oh, I wish the show was just this.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, this is why this part of the show is so good. You know, it faked me out thinking it would be this crazy epic adventure.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And like this past episode was so funny.
So funny.
And they even had at the end of the episode, what was it, like not bloopers, but like just like a comedy reel of people just giving each other lines. And it was just so funny. It's such a good show. I love all of the characters, the side characters, even like the B characters. I don't know, like just they're all really good.
Yeah, so I wanted to give shout outs to, I'm going to butcher her name, but I believe it's Jana Schmeiding, who plays, she's like the receptionist at that their doctor's office. She's super sassy.
Yeah, she's great.
And she was just so funny. She's been on a few episodes each season. She's like 2 or 3 episodes each season. And she comes in and just drops the hammer and is so funny. And then on this episode, she got a fantastic scene partner in Zahn. It's all these names. Zahn McClarnon.
And he's been in other stuff.
Yeah, he's famous.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
He plays the police chief, I guess, of the reservation. And most of the time he's like fairly serious as he's a cop. And he was so funny in this with like the sexual tension between them.
So funny.
And then, they were so funny together that I guess like the directors or whatever were like, we have to show more of this scene.
Yeah.
And they showed like no TV show ever does like, these are the bloopers we took out.
Yeah.
And they're just like messing around, like doing,
well, I think they were just trying to make each other laugh. Like who can say the dirtiest things?
The whole crew, they left in that the whole crew cracked. Yeah. They're all laughing in the background. So they couldn't use that shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like 2 totally different shows within the same show, and they're both so good. So watch Reservation Dogs if you're not.
Definitely. It's the last season, so definitely watch it.
And then we're moving to movies. Speaking of 4 friends messing around, having a good time, we watched Hulu's Miguel Wants to Fight, written by Shea Serrano and Jason Concepcion, fellow podcasters, much more successful than us. But hey, have us on your show, Jason.
Yeah.
We could talk about all your nerd stuff. And Shea Serrano has been like a hot name, growing bigger and bigger, making shows and writing books. And so we were interested in this. It is about, again, we're celebrating Hispanic culture, coming up with Blue Beetle next, this episode. And it's just, it's a really funny movie about 4 friends in Syracuse, New York. And they're all actually, so 2 of them are Hispanic. One of them is actually, one guy's Hispanic, one guy's Filipino, one girl's black, and then one guy is Indian.
Yeah.
So it's like, lots of cultures mashed up together. They all have their jokes. It's really funny. They all love anime. And the crux of the show is that one of the kids is moving. And they get in fights a lot because I guess the neighborhood is rough. But this one kid never gets into the fight and he feels terrible about it. And then they make it's almost like a Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
It kind of is, yeah.
Like battle, like setting it up with like a video game or like an anime series.
Yeah.
And then they reference all of these other martial arts movies.
Yes.
Like
styles.
Yeah, Bruce Lee movies and The Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an hour and 15 minutes. It's really good. Definitely watch it.
Yeah. Highly recommend. I loved the connection with the friend group. I mean, it was all just, it was really fun.
Yeah, it all really worked. Just like kids making jokes. Everybody was really funny.
Mm-hmm.
But touching at times.
Yeah, well, 100%.
And then that very handsome guy from Looking now just plays
the dad.
Like the monotone Hispanic dad.
Yeah. I know. Whenever I see him in something, I'm like, oh, yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that guy. We loved Looking.
I know. And then should we quickly talk about Ellie Kemper, Happy Trails? What was it called?
Happiness for Beginners.
Happiness for Beginners. What was it? I don't even remember. I guess a girl, she is getting a divorce from her husband, a very shitty husband, it sounds like. He cheated on her. And so she wants to do something to get her groove back, essentially to test herself that she could do like life again on her own. And she goes on a wilderness hike right through the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah.
And it's like a random group of people and they all become friends. And I don't know, it's just like a nice time, honestly. And it made me feel like, I want to do this.
Yes, do a hike. Let's do a several night hike.
It was like
when somebody sets up the tent for me, that's all I care about.
I know. Well, no, they do it for each other. That's the point. Right. Yeah, I just really enjoyed it. It's kind of like a rom-com too. Yeah,
rom-com, self-discovery, classic stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just an enjoyable movie. This was on Netflix.
Yep.
And then one other movie we watched on Netflix before we even get to Blue Beetle is...
It's called Hidden Strike.
Yeah. Not very good as a movie. No, it was fine.
No, it was bad.
Like, it was crazy. Like, the fight scenes, it was kind of funny. I don't know. Just we just watched a lot of movies this week.
Yeah, so Jackie Chan and John Cena are both great, as always.
Yeah.
But the movie itself, like, it was just basically Netflix did an AI algorithm of a movie for the Chinese
market.
Yeah. And like at the beginning of the movie, that, you know how they always show the production companies that did it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 26 different Chinese production companies. So they were all invested in this. Apparently it made a shit. Well, I guess Netflix doesn't make that much like money from views, but it like broke records of Chinese watching in China. And yeah, I mean, it like, but it looked terrible. Like they didn't spend that much money on it. It's a CGI desert. Everything is CGI, but not that good CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like nonsense action. They're making a second one.
I guess maybe I wasn't like watching it as closely as you were, because I was like working while we had it on.
Eventually I started not watching it either.
So maybe I didn't notice as much as the CGI.
Oh,
but
it looks
like,
so bad.
I just like was listening to the banter and whatever else. I mean, it was fine.
We love John Cena.
Yeah. I was just very impressed. That's all I have to say.
This movie was fun.
All right.
And finally,
date night.
We went to date night to see Blue Beetle, and I really liked it. We're going to start our conversation. I think we keep it fairly general, but then eventually we do start spoiling some things. So you can listen for a little bit, and then I think we start saying spoiler alert. Today we are talking DC's Blue Beetle. Irma, was Blue Beetle a good movie? And I'm going to stop you right there because Blue Beetle was a good movie. I'm not even going to ask you about it. Do you agree?
Yeah, I had a fun time watching Blue Beetle. I had low expectations, and I would definitely say this was better than I expected.
Yeah, so DC has not given us much to be excited about.
No.
So I think everybody was a bit guarded thinking about this movie. You know, they just came off The Flash, which was like kind of a disaster.
Yep.
The whole release, whether you liked it or not, different, but like the whole thing was just veiled in this like, man, I don't know about this. And then James Gunn is coming in. So like what's relevant, what's not. So I feel like this movie was an uphill climb.
And still, even the release of this is not ideal. And I think also this was supposed to go straight to HBO, but then they decided to put it in theaters, even though I don't know if this is the best time for it to be in theaters with the writer's strike, the actor's strike, and then just the August of it all. But yeah, people go see this movie. It was good.
Yeah, it was really good. And I was hoping it was going to be good.
Yes.
I was like, I really would like this movie that is representative of an awesome culture, Irma's culture, things that we've been surrounded with here in New York, and like, you know, representation. And also just like the relaunch of DC. I really wanted this to be good.
I agree.
But I was scared that it wasn't going to be. And if you watch like our Excitometer episode of movies, we were like, I'm excited for it, but I think I literally said it's probably going to be bad.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. And it was really good. And I think it centers around having a specific place, a specific people that they did not shy away from. They didn't shy away from the Hispanic culture. Like there were so many in-jokes.
Yes.
That I only understood because of like Christmas Eves with your family.
Yeah,
that,
one time a year.
But like I'm sure to you and other people that are kind of surrounded by the Hispanic culture, it like really speaks to them.
Absolutely. I mean, I love that it didn't shy away from that, and like the people who get it, and if you don't get it, who cares? Like
they also didn't shy away from speaking in Spanish.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I like that like some of it was subtitled, some of it wasn't. And I felt like that was very true to like the immigrant or just the child of immigrant stories. Like you speak English, you also speak Spanish. And I just love like, the duality of that.
So it's difficult to talk about modern superhero movies without comparing them to the plethora of other ones that we've had recently. I think this movie is better than any of the recent Marvel stuff. It's a top tier DC movie at this point, just because DC hasn't really given us much since, let's say, the first Wonder Woman and Aquaman.
Yeah, those are my
and
top
if you don't
two.
count, I think Batman.
Right. Well,
the
that's
independent
different.
Batman stuff feels like it's just a whole different.
Well,
category.
that's just like high-end directors come into play.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you got your Nolan, your Christopher Reeves, like, or no, Matt Reeves. Sorry.
Hey. So I feel like most of the Marvel stuff, and then even like the Justice League stuff and Wonder Woman, even like everything got too big.
Yeah.
Like we're fighting aliens, we're fighting demons. Like, you know, Moon Knight was like, Moon Knight technically is a very similar story.
Yeah.
But just like it was too much, and like space aliens, and we're fighting the end of the universe. Like the whole universe could be destroyed by a decision. And this just centered it in a technologically advanced near future Miami. The villain, kind of like back to the first Ant-Man, is just like a tech piece of shit. You know, like
It's just a Karen.
she's a terrible person. All she cares
Karen.
about is money, and she's also like racist.
Yeah, well, daddy overlooked her for the position.
Right.
She's Shiv Roy. Yeah, well, I also really like that it is grounded in this family story, and that it's kind of more an ensemble. Like, yes, it's about Jaime becoming the Blue Beetle, but like you don't get there without his family, just really grounding it. And they really, I want to say like flush out or give each family member like a small little backstory. They make you love Jaime because they love Jaime.
Absolutely. And it gets to the point that we bring up a lot of like character first. Like make me care about these characters before you just throw this bombastic action or, you know, nonsense CGI.
Yeah.
I need to care about this character, and I need to care about his sister, and I need to care about this love interest. And they make that happen. It's so difficult to pinpoint why things like this do or do not work. For example, like Ant-Man Quantumania, I just did not care about the Scott and his daughter relationship. I can't pinpoint why. And in like theory, I should care, but it just didn't work for me. And then like their big reunion when they were giant things, I just like didn't feel it. And in Blue Beetle, I really did. I really cared about Jaime. I understood what his parents imbued in him and his values, and the fun uncle and his sassy yet sentimental sister. And like, it just all really worked. And you know what? I definitely cried watching Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
So it worked.
Yeah, and it was also really funny, I think. And I think George Lopez had a lot to do with that, playing the fun uncle.
Funkle.
Yeah. I think he really carried the comedy, which is okay, and I loved it. And yeah, he really he had his moments to shine, but then he like went back to being part of the ensemble, which I thought was great. Like, yeah, he was great. And he was also supposed to be like a tech genius. I'm not sure if I really believed all of that, but fine, I don't care.
There were definitely some classic action / superhero movie like yada yada yadas that like in a lesser movie or a movie where I just, again, like where the character development didn't work, it would piss me off.
Yeah.
Like now all of a sudden George Lopez can like program all these computers.
It just needs 1 hour to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
But like that kind of stuff didn't bother me in this movie because he endeared himself to me and all of the characters I cared about. So in in like worse movies, some of this like, yeah, well, come on. Like, oh, she had to go back to the headquarters that they just left to get a watch that she could have taken right before, you know?
Yeah.
But
I mean,
like,
that's kind of one of the issues I originally had. I was just like, this like doesn't make sense. Like, why do all of this? You know what I mean? But yeah, that's kind of, it's a silly nitpick, I think.
It's difficult to make a 2-hour movie that moves this much and has like all these different characters without having it feel like, yeah, okay, all right, we're doing this again.
Yeah.
But again, like this one didn't bother me so much because I really liked the characters.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I really cared about them.
And I also just want to shout out the CGI. I actually thought it looked pretty good. Like, it didn't bother me at all. The only thing that bothered me, which is not CGI at all, was the house that Jaime lived in with his family. It felt very soundstagey to me, especially when they were in the front yard. Like, it just looked fake.
Yeah.
And that bothered me. Like, I just wish they like set it at a real house. Like, especially if you're going to be outside. I don't know. But everything else I thought looked really good. Like the suit, the body horror of the suit. Yeah, it was crazy.
The suit, the Blue Beetle looked fantastic.
Yeah.
And again, we're comparing, but like you set the center of a movie or a show
Mm-hmm.
on the main character, Blue Beetle, you got to make sure that thing looks really good.
Yeah.
She-Hulk.
Well, I feel bad for those.
I know that was a
people.
television show, so like maybe the budget is lower, but I think, and like we've heard stories that Marvel is just churning and churning and churning.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, I'm not blaming the artist.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you can't blame them. I just feel like they're so overworked and they're trying their best. And especially the deadlines, like they're just kind of unrealistic. And I don't know how long that they had to work on Blue Beetle, but it looked good. The suit looked good. All of like the gadgets and like
the transformation when it took
well, that's
him
what I'm
over.
saying. Yeah, the body horror. It was scary.
Some of it was pretty gruesome when
it was
grew
cool.
out of him.
Yeah.
The only CGI, there's always going to be some that are like, oh, but the ones that looked weird in this felt like completely unnecessary shots. Like it wasn't the main stuff. It was like you're saying, the CGI or like the skyline in the distance.
Yeah.
Like when they would show this fake Miami in the distance.
Well, that's like also what made it feel more like a sound stage. It's like this like fake house with this like Miami in the distance. And I get that, but like I just don't think it needed to be so fake, the house itself.
And then
I don't know.
The Cord headquarters, I thought,
yeah,
when they would pan sometimes, because obviously this fake building is not 100 stories tall.
Yeah.
And so when they pan like up this open concept stairway, it's obviously fake. And it just looked really bad.
Well, that's what makes me think of like Stark Tower. Like that looked good because it was like a real building. Like just use real buildings.
Well, yeah, then they
they like add it a little bit. Yeah, But
yeah, the weird stuff just looked like, let's just cut that scene. Why did you show that?
Yeah.
We have to talk about the kind of the heart of this movie and the like perspective. And I know it's a really lofty thing to say, but I am also going to compare it to Black Panther. In it, the filmmaker and the writers and everybody involved seeming to have something to say.
Yeah.
This was not just a generic kid finds himself to be a superhero. This was a Mexican person living in the slums of a city that had cast them out, made them other, made their people others.
Gentrification.
Exactly. And they even like at one point the grandmother screams about imperialists.
Yeah.
Like it was very much a indictment on kind of imperialism and this like white people taking over
even
the
like
world.
the American dream, like he goes to college pre-law, gets a degree, and then can't even get a job. Right. You know what I mean? And it's just like, and then when he even goes to like the front desk of Cord Industries, he says his name, and then the woman keeps repeating Jamie. And that happens to me all the time with my name being Irma. People like just never hear me. They always keep saying Emma back to me, and I'm like, that's not my name. And I correct them like once or twice, and then I'm just like, all right, it is what it is.
Yeah, so Susan Sarandon
Karen
plays this tech billionaire who kind of has a chip on her shoulder, is kind of racist. She's like fairly generic villain.
Yes.
You know, we've seen this before, but man, I freaking hated her. So I guess she did a good job.
Yeah, I think she was exactly what she was supposed to do. And yeah, like I was like, wow, I can't believe Susan Sarandon is doing this. But at the same time, like, go Susan Sarandon, like play against type. You know, like me, I remember like, what is it, Stepmoms? That is like one of my favorite movies. I mean, obviously like not Bonnie and Clyde. What's that movie? The two women, Brad Pitt.
Thelma and Louise.
Right. Yeah, so I think she did a good job just being that like woman you want to hate.
Yeah, tough role. And then so we have to address Sholomari Duena. I thought he was very good. So at first, again, this kind of went into the arriving guarded. And I think George Lopez did a really good job kind of cracking that seal of coming in, the veteran presence being really hilarious. And then I think Jaime was funny, but then there were parts like when he first got the suit and it did like that whole like mayhem flying through the air, you know, doing all this stuff out of his control.
Voice acting.
Exactly.
That's not really him. So like
it was too much, a little too much voice over. screaming.
Yeah.
Like so much screaming.
Yeah.
Which I understand, like in theory, when you're writing this out and having him record it, it's like you would be screaming if you were flying in this suit.
Like I almost wish they showed his face.
Yeah, a little bit
reacting. Yeah, because then that would have felt more genuine than
like what they do with Tony.
Yeah. But I guess it's a different suit, obviously. So I guess I just don't know the mechanics of like how the suit works.
And then interacting with his family was really good. I also want to shout out Belissa Escobedo, who plays his sister, who was like also really good. She was very funny.
Yes.
But then when she had to be serious, she was like this perfect fulcrum of sass and sincerity. Like she really kind of centered him of becoming this, mega superhero.
Yeah.
But then like she kept him pretty normal.
Yes.
And like would still give him crap, like a classic sister.
Yeah.
And I thought she did a really good job. And then I think Xolo.
Zolo, I think.
I think it's Xolo. I watched the video and he says it more like Xolo.
Okay.
He really carried the sentimental parts. Like even if he's not maybe as like charming and funny as like a Tom Holland early in Spider-Man when he's still being a goof.
Yeah.
I think he did a much better job in like the serious because this movie gets pretty serious.
Yeah, it gets pretty dark.
Jaime gets very mad.
Yeah.
And I thought that is like a hard thing to go from being really funny and kind of like quirky, we're having fun, crazy uncle, to like imperialism has kind of destroyed our people and I am fighting against this and I am going to be the savior. That's like, they don't say that, but that's like the message behind it all.
I mean, they have like raiders go into his home, separating his family.
That was like
that
very
was hard.
real. That felt very
that was hard
real.
to watch, especially like with everything that's going on at the border. Yeah, it just felt very like, oh, like they're trying to say something here. Like, and they're like,
they didn't shy away from it.
Yeah, because like they're hiding. Yeah, hiding in the
bedroom when they open it. Like the classic, like when they show the flashlights shine onto a family that's quivering in a corner. Yeah, they did that. They freaking showed that in a super.
Actually starting to tear
I know in a silly superhero movie.
Yeah.
So it gets pretty serious, and I think he did a very good job.
Yeah, I think he did.
No, this is real. See, it was a good movie.
Well, no, it's just because of like it's so realistic.
Yeah, and that's when I relate it to something like Black Panther. Ryan Coogler had something to say.
Yeah, I mean, even with Susan Sarandon's henchman and like his like the whole like child soldier being an orphan, her kind of taking him and like turning this man into what she wants. I mean.
Yeah, child soldiers that we've seen. Friggin' imperialism. Again, this silly movie had something to say and it made me really care.
Yeah, I like that Susan Sarandon, I think, was like the only white person really in this movie.
Yeah, I was actually watching the credits to open the movies. Every single name except for Susan Sarandon was a Hispanic name. Like I was looking at all the last names from, like the costume people, like so many of them. All of the actors, the director and writer, obviously, and so many of them. And it's awesome.
The only thing I want to shout out, like not negative or positive, but what's the actor's name who plays Guillermo on What We Do in the Shed?
Harvey Guillen.
Yeah. So he was in this movie as like, I think a scientist working for Susan Sarandon. And I was just like disappointed that he wasn't given more to do. Like he's a genuinely very funny guy. And I don't know, I just wanted so much more from him. And when I saw him, I was excited, like that he was in this movie. I'm like, yes, go Guillermo. He'll always be Guillermo to me.
Yeah, we know him as a very funny person. And the fact that he played like really, I actually don't think his character, maybe one or two jokes, but he played just a more like a sidekick to the villain. But then, spoiler, he gets his moment.
I suppose,
to be a bit heroic and stand up for his people. So good for him. But yeah, he was a little underutilized.
Yeah.
And let's do a few more nitpicks and then talk quickly about the action. And then that'll be it. So a few of the nitpicks in these kind of movies, some of the yada yadas can bother me. But again, if you do a good enough job that I care about the characters and I care about the story and I understand the perspective and I get the motivations of everybody, I look past that. A few things that were, because we're being pretty glowing about this. So this ancient alien scarab thing.
Yeah, I kind of wish that I'm glad it didn't go too deep into it.
Right. I don't care that we don't really know where it came from.
Yeah.
That I don't care about. It's that like Susan Sarandon was able to just like copy and paste the code.
Yeah.
Like that. It's like that was weird.
Yeah.
And just enter it into this other guy's suit. It makes sense that this weird scarab thing has to attach itself to a brain and it turns, the host into this super being. I'm cool with that. But to just be able to like copy and paste the code and then just enter it into a machine, which can do the same thing.
Yeah.
I was like,
I know. I agree. What was the scarab, the suit? What was his name? Kajida. Kajida.
And that brings us to the action, because I thought the action was really good.
Yeah.
And especially, you just simply cannot go wrong with a hallway fight.
Right.
We've said it before and we'll say it again. There's a hallway fight in John Wick, Daredevil, the new TMNT movie. Yeah. You do a hallway fight.
Well, I feel like
it just
since
works.
Daredevil, it's become kind of a superhero staple,
or
just like an action
Daredevil
movie.
Show.
Yes, the action movie staple. Like it's just like something you have to do to like prove that like, okay, this is good action.
Yeah, the new Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
I think
it.
I think the best scene in that whole movie was that, I mean, it wasn't like exactly a hallway because it was wider, but a contained space fight scene where like the camera is just
was
moving
very cool.
through everything. That was like when Jaime is kind of figuring it out. It's his Neo moment from the Matrix. If that's it, if you didn't catch on to that. That like, okay, all of this fighting and like what am I and what is this scarab, and they kind of fuse together in this cool moment.
Yes. The suit in general, I thought was very cool. How he could just like think of something and it like come like the sword and that like the suit started learning from him, and like at the end, like it started speaking Spanish to him. Like I loved that.
Yeah, they did kind of this whole thing about him finally fusing with it and accepting it.
Yeah.
And, I think they did this really nice scene with the father.
Are we spoiling?
Yeah, we're going to spoil a bunch of stuff now near the end. They did this really nice scene with the father that kind of was kind of like the wake up. You can do this, fuse with the suit, be all you can be. You are the one, you are Neo. Then another nitpick was they like then drop it back down to him not like the suit shutting itself down.
Yeah, I thought that was strange.
Yeah, like you need to have that one moment when, Neo sees the code. And then like he doesn't then see the code and then go, oh no, I forgot the code. And then 15 minutes later have like somebody else remind him what's happening, which is what happened in this movie. Because then like they also give a nice scene to the mother. It's like they wanted to give all the parental figures their moment to influence him, but I think they could have fused it into one scene. Yeah. And had him just come out of that and us be like, oh, hell yeah. Now he's going to freaking wreak havoc.
Yeah. Well, we should say like, okay, so when I went in like the first hour of this movie, I appreciated that like it wasn't like a typical origin story where like he had a dead parent or he had like a dead lover and that he was like essentially needing to redeem them and like this like he goes on this journey. He just like was surrounded by love and like he was able to still be like a superhero. You know what I mean? Yes, it took him a while to like get used to it, but that's kind of like any origin story. But then they do kill the father, which I was bummed about, but I guess every superhero needs to have some sort of person to motivate them. And then they, I guess, do a Force ghost. He essentially
it's like an existential eternal plane, because he doesn't come to him in the real life. He's like he enters the subconscious space where his father can speak to him. But and
that's who motivates him to just become one with
it's his
scarab.
destiny. What the dead father did do was give the grandmother a moment to step up, where they're about, the family's about to lose it. Because they just watched their father die. And she says, this is not time to grieve. We are fighting now. Yeah. Like she really instilled in them that we as a people need to fight against this piece of shit. And and like she got that moment. And then the moment when at the end, when it's all finished, And she says, okay, now we can cry.
Mhm.
That's when Zach started to cry also.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, to mourn the father. So, you know, you just got to add that human element. I know a dead parent is like a classic trope from literally 60% of all stories, but
Yeah.
it works. And that's why.
I know it works. It works. I mean, I'm glad that we got like a lot of time with him.
We spent a lot of time with him.
And that it wasn't just like in Batman, like just like Crime Alley, like, dispense of the parents immediately. You know what I mean? So like.
So once Jaime figures it out, starts kicking ass, Zach is all like, hell yeah, let's go. We got the Cypress Hill song in the hallway scene, which was awesome. And then the kind of final battle and what you talked about with the suit. And there's really no way around that. The suit is called Kajida. It is very Japanese inspired.
Mm-hmm.
And the other guy's suit, Carapax's mechanical created suit, is a near copy of like an Evangelion, a Japanese anime fighting, like with the things that came up from the shoulders that like maybe it can fly, maybe it couldn't. There was like no denying that both suits were very influenced by Japanese anime.
That's
and then
cool.
especially when they were fighting and like what you just said, that he could kind of conjure any of the weapons. Like they actually didn't really do that guns. Like he was always swords. And especially when he did like the double hand, the big sword,
that was
like
cool.
straight out of like a Final Fantasy thing, which is also Japanese inspired.
That did feel very, because it was like a huge samurai sword. Yeah, that was so cool.
And so like I really appreciated that in this super Hispanic story, they were also referencing Japanese culture and Japanese entertainment and fighting. And they brought it all together into this awesome package where I had a great time. I was, you know, if you have me like literally rooting and cheering in my seat, I'm happy about that. The kid behind us sounded pumped.
Did he?
I think so. Yeah, there was a kid that they bought the Blue Beetle backpack.
Aww.
He had blue hair.
Oh,
He was all in. I don't know
that.
why. And again, we've fully spoiled it now. But there is a stinger in the credits scene that seems to imply that this is not the end. And even though we weren't sure about what James Gunn exactly is doing with the DCU, all we really know is that the Superman movie comes out in like 2 years that he's doing. Yeah. And that's, you know, the Flash was maybe supposed to reset it, but now who knows? But it seems like the Blue Beetle is continuing because there is a stinger that, you know, more is happening. More is coming.
Yeah, I think James Gunn, saw this movie and liked it. And so they decided to keep the Blue Beetle, which is kind of exciting, you know, like this is a new character, a new movie. So there's no reason to really get rid of it. I mean, I understand like it's going to come out in like a tough time. So I hope it makes money. Yeah. To like motivate.
Go see Blue Beetle.
Yeah, to motivate Warner Brothers and DC to make another one, you know, but.
There was a time when a movie could just come out and not be referential or reliant on 30 other movies surrounding it, and it could just be good, and maybe they'll make a sequel and that'll be it. I'm happy to see another one, and I'm happy that Jaime as Blue Beetle can come back in a larger universe, sure. But in the wake of us kind of calling like superhero exhaustion with Marvel and the MCU, I also wouldn't hate if this was just like a really good one-off. That doesn't spell failure.
No, I know. I know what you mean. Yeah.
But I do think this movie is good enough that even if it doesn't make so much money because of all the different factors that we've talked about right now, I think word of mouth will spread that if they make a Blue Beetle 2, that will work.
Well, also like because James Gunn is coming in to connect it all, I think it would be a shame to not include Blue Beetle. Yeah. So I would feel somewhat offended if he didn't include Jaime in some future installment. Honestly, like because they're trying to do that. Like I do see what you're saying that like it like studios shouldn't have to feel like everything needs to be connected. And yes, I agree. But like if they are, that's the intention is to connect it, then like he needs to come back. Yeah, like I need more.
We're already way down the road of like everything does have to connect. Whatever I'm talking about is long gone.
I know.
So like, yes, definitely bring back Blue Beetle. And also we've had like discussions of some of the MCU stuff where some of the smaller characters just don't feel powerful enough.
Mhm.
And when you have something like a Miss Marvel and then these tiny stories where you're like, all right, so where are the big superheroes? Because they could just solve this in 2 seconds. Although we celebrated that this story is a smaller, more contained, no aliens, no multiverse, and like we can just live in it. The suit and the scarab seems to be powerful enough that like having a Superman enter the fray of this story wouldn't feel insane. Like the
No,
power
not
of a
at all.
Superman or the power of a Flash.
I also feel like this story was small enough that it didn't need a Superman or a Batman
Right,
to come in
exactly.
and save the day.
But I'm saying
Like it was like
yeah.
it was what is the word? Attacking just Jaime. Like they needed
Yeah,
him.
it wasn't the end of the world.
So he was fighting back. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't the end of the world.
Yeah, I'm just saying like the suit itself feels like powerful enough that it wouldn't feel out of place in a
Mhm.
larger universe.
Yeah, I agree.
Where some of these smaller time superheroes sometimes feel like, all right, you can't compete with these star beings.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, now that like I feel like we got this contained story of like Jaime and his family and like maybe his new girlfriend. I would actually like in another story like to get the actual lore of the scarab and the background and Jenny's father and like what
Read the
happened to
comics.
him. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like in this next movie, maybe they'll do that story. Like I kind of like that they left that open to still be discovered, you know, like that we still have questions.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Really good film.
Yeah.
I had a really good time. I was pumped. Maybe there is hope for the DCU after all.
Let's hope. Fingers crossed.
All right. And that is it. Thank you very much for listening. Next week, we're going to try our best to see Bottoms, I think, because boy, I would like to. Hopefully we can make it work and the movie times are correct and that is whatever. We'll definitely going to watch Ahsoka. So we'll be talking about the 2-episode premiere. And then we'll see what else crops up. Oh, we started watching Telemarketers on HBO, which is just a crazy, wacky documentary from the end of the 90s, early 2000s about this crazy business. And it seems to be getting odder and odder as it goes forward. It's produced by the Safdie brothers. I also don't know why it took 20 years for them to put out this story and like what this guy was doing with all this footage. But hey, sometimes that's what happens with documentaries. So we'll probably talk about that.
And maybe we'll rope in John Wilson in there just because it's kind of similar documentary style.
Yeah, and it's coming
He's so
to an
good.
end.
Oh, yeah. Thank you to Craig for the production assistance. And thank you to John Welsh for our intro and outro music.
Subscribe, please, so you know every time we post a new episode and it'll just come up on your phone. Follow us on all the social medias. I just posted a short about Blue Beetle, so go watch that on TikTok at Talkin Tent and on Instagram at Talkin Tent without the G.
Get those views up.
Yeah, get those views up and like, follow, subscribe, do all the things, comment. Wow, I love Zach. Oh, I like Irma better. You know, whatever you feel. And email us at talkintent@gmail.com. From our living room to yours, what do you want to watch?